These are some of the best trout lures that have caught me hundreds of trout over the last couple years. If you don't know me, my name's Nick, and I basically go fishing almost every day, and I try to share with you everything that I learned so that you can catch as many fish as I do. In this video, we're gonna go over the lures, the rigs that go with them, and how to tie everything up, and everything that you're gonna need in order to fish these lures. And I'll have everything linked down below for you so that it's super easy to find. So the first and my favorite lure we're going to talk about is the spinner. There's a lot of different kinds of spinners. I personally go with rooster tail spinners, which have like little feathers or string on them. There's normal spinners, which is just straight up metal with the blade. Colors that I personally call it the most trout on have to be silver and white, and then gold and black. Those are pretty much the only colors I buy. This specific brand is called Yakima, and what I've noticed is that they have the cheapest ones, and they're actually pretty high quality. The spinner, it only has one job, which is to spin, so price doesn't really matter. Just go with the cheapest one. And the way I tie it to my line is I use a knot called the improved clinch knot. And all you have to do with this knot is put your line through the eye hole of the spinner, and then you wrap the end that came out of the hole around your main line 6 times. And once you've done that, you just put that end of the line that you just wrapped around 6 times, you put that through the first loop of your line, not the eyelet of the spinner, the first loop of your line. You put that through there, and then you take that little tag end and put it back through the big loop that you see. And once you put it through there, you pull it a little bit, and then you stop pulling on the tag end, and you just pull with your main line until everything cinches. And make sure you wet the line first, because if you don't wet the line, something called line burn is going to happen, and your line's going to become super weak and will probably break off if you snag or hook a big fish. And guys, you can use any knot. It doesn't matter, honestly. People like to go crazy about it, but use whatever. I just figured I would show you this knot because people have been asking me what rigs and stuff you use. And this knot will be used on every single knot in this video, just to make things simple. So the next best lure that I like to use is the pink Berkeley Gulp worms. They are 3-inch floating worms, and I like to use a jig head that matches the color of your worm. So I use a pink jig head, either 1/16 ounce or 1/32 ounce, because the way I fish it, I like it to be off the bottom. All you do is just twitch your rod a little bit like that. So to tie it on there, we're just gonna use the same knot, the improved clinch knot. And then when you thread the worm onto the jig head, you kind of have to get this by feel, but you just wanna go through the top of the worm with the hook and thread the worm on there. And then once it reaches about like the top of the bend, I'd say that's a good time to push the rest of the hook through the worm, and then all you do is slide it up the jig head, up the shank. And you want to make sure everything's sitting nice and even. You don't want part of the worm to be curved up the hook like this. You want everything to be nice and flat like that. And this will make for a better presentation. You can see that the worm likes to jiggle a lot, and that's really what gets the trout to bite, that nice jiggly tail of the worm. So you can use these 2 lures anywhere, honestly. Rivers, creeks, ponds, lakes. But this next rig, I only recommend using it in ponds and lakes, or any place that has still water. So what you're gonna need here is a egg sinker. An egg sinker is just, it's shaped like an egg, and it has a little hole through, like that. And it allows for your line to go through it so that the egg sinker can slide back and forth on your line. Then you're also going to need a barrel swivel. This allows you to tie 2 pieces of line to it, and then a barrel swivel, it swivels, so that's not really what we're using it for. We're just using it to stop the egg sinker from sliding off the line. You'll see in a second, it'll all make sense. You're also going to need a little bead. Honestly, this is optional. I tend to not use it just because I simply forget to get them. I'll explain the importance of the bead once we tie the rig. And then lastly, you're going to need a size 8 bait holder hook. A bait holder hook, it holds bait on the hook. There's 2 little barbs on the shank of the hook that hold bait on there pretty good. So we're just going to use those. And then lastly, you'll need power bait eggs. So to start this rig, all you do is take your main line. I'm using braid here just because braid shows up better on the camera. So you just put your line right through the egg sinker. And then if you had a bead, you would put the bead right on after that. And then you take your main line and you tie it to the barrel swivel using whatever knot you want, or you could just use the knot that I provided in the beginning. And once it's tied on there, you can see that the egg sinker can move freely up and down the line, and that the barrel swivel is stopping it from coming off the line. So then you're going to take another piece of line. Usually I go about 1 foot to 2 feet because what's going to happen here is the power bait's actually going to float up off the bottom, and you can either have it float a foot up or 2 feet up. And I found that in between that range works pretty well. So tie on your leader line to the other end of the barrel swivel using any knot. And then at the end of the leader, you're going to want to tie on your hook. And so what we have here is you have the egg sinker on your main line with the optional bead. The bead is just there to protect the knot from getting hit by the weight. You got your barrel swivel in the middle, acting as a block between the leader and the main line, and it keeps the egg sinker from coming off. Then you got your leader right here, and then you got your hook tied to the leader. And then lastly, you just want to put on 2 of those power bait Magnum eggs. And if you've ever used power bait, you probably noticed that you can get the can that has the Play-Doh and you just roll it into a ball, or you can get the power bait eggs, which is what I like to use, and you just slide them on the hook. And I use the eggs because they actually stay on the hook better. I will say the Play-Doh stuff does come in handy when you're using a treble hook. A treble hook has 3 little hooks on one hook. And the only reason I'd use treble hooks is if I'm fishing to keep the fish, because almost always the fish will swallow power bait, and it's super hard to get a treble hook out of a fish's throat. So if I'm using a treble hook, I'll use the Play-Doh stuff, and then you slide the Play-Doh ball onto the treble hook, and it hides the entire hook, which is pretty cool. So the treble hook is optional. If you're going to use the treble hook, go with the Play-Doh stuff. And this rig is great for lakes and ponds or any still water, because you're going to be fishing right on the bottom. And lastly, here's another power bait rig, and this one is for moving water like creeks and rivers and stuff like that. So super simple. You just need a size 8 bait holder hook and a split shot. The split shot weight and size depends on how fast the river's moving. So if the river's moving fast, you're going to want something a little heavier. And if it's moving very slow, you're going to want to use something lighter. So all you're going to do is tie the hook onto the end of your line. And then about a foot up from the hook, you're going to put on your split shot. And use pliers, don't use your teeth. You're going to crack your tooth. So once you really crank that split shot down, you tie the hook on. All you're going to do is thread on 2 power bait eggs, and you are good to go. So these 4 rigs and lures have caught me literally hundreds of trout over the last couple years, but specifically I've caught well over 100 trout just in the last 4 months using this kind of stuff. Yeah, if you don't believe me, you can go watch the other videos and stuff. I have literally shown my my fish log. Yeah, I'm kind of a loser, but I like to keep track of everything. And yeah, everything's linked down below, like I said, so you can find it super easy. And I hope this helps you catch more trout. And we'll be out there tomorrow. Peace.